Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
And welcome back, everybody. We all have goals. We're trying to move our lives forward. We want to achieve certain dreams that we may have. Doesn't matter what they are. Always comes down to these two words, self-empowerment. How do we, and I'm sure you've heard those words before, how do we use those to move our life forward? We're going to start with that as we talk with a woman that helps people attain their goals and transform their life all the time. Coach Jay is back with us. How you doing today?
I'm doing great, thanks. How are you?
Good. I'm happy to see that it's warmed up for you down there in Florida.
Yep, I'm a little further south than the snow.
Okay. So you never got snow?
No, I'm about 5.5 hours south of that. So
Wow. I'm trying to remember a Facebook friend. Maybe it was Stuart, Florida. I'm not really sure, but the pictures blew me away. Not that it was the volume of snow in Florida, which even just seeing that doesn't even go together, but the heaviness of the snow wreaked havoc on their house and their backyard, the screened in area for their pool, like pieces, everything was just falling
the
apart.
lanai, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Oh, pieces just falling apart. I was like, I couldn't believe it. It was looking like a hurricane rolled through, but no, it was just the snow, the heaviness, and I guess it wasn't really built for that down there in Florida.
Oh, no.
Wow. Well, you got to roll with it. Self-empowerment. Right. How do we define that?
To me, I think self-empowerment is taking control of your life, establishing your goals, your values, and the direction you want to head, and then being diligent and deliberate about making steps towards that to be successful.
Interesting you say values, because I look at that, and what do we have to go with? You apply it to your own life and then, share it with others. I always knew what my values were to a point, but I believe it didn't happen until I was self-empowered, if you will, that it became crystal clear that, and the priority may have changed a little bit. And maybe I added one or two more values within that. It was never intentional. I've never really thought about it, but after, walking a journey, that crystallized within. Does that happen for people?
Sure. It's, when you start to get in touch with yourself and you become more self-aware, you prioritize your needs. You rearrange your life to start to prioritize yourself, and you set your boundaries, you set goals, you learn to trust yourself. And from there, that self-empowerment happens. You realize you're not a slave to anything outside of yourself, that's just an excuse. When you really start to define what's important to you, and hopefully for most people, it'll be themselves first and foremost, because if we can't take care of ourselves and fill our own cup, we can't really do anything else for anyone, do anything for anyone else.
Sure.
So once we, begin that journey, and start with our mindset and start with our goals, and then starting to make achievable goals, small ones, move towards, taking those steps. And as we do those small steps and accomplish those little steps, those steps become bigger, and we create more goals, and then your life becomes more fulfilling.
Do you find that, and it's a cliche, but I believe it's true, you got to love yourself. Do you find that unless you have really mastered that you're always going to have challenges moving your life forward?
Yeah, I believe so, because with that self-love is an understanding and your own empathy and compassion for yourself, and patience, something you would give to a small child, not knowing any better,
Right.
you give that to yourself. You give yourself that grace, that love, that forgiveness, And when you encounter obstacles or things that are difficult in life or have struggles in work, relationships, etc., um, coming from a place of self-love, you kind of handle yourself a lot gentler. You're not
Mm.
as critical of yourself. It's a healthy way to respond to your own needs and wants and others around you.
I'm almost feeling that when you have that, call it mastered, just feeling that you're a good person, maybe even be able to look in the mirror and say, "Hey, I love you," which I don't think a lot of people can easily do. And I don't mean with anybody around, just you in the mirror.
Yeah.
Um, you build some resilience, and you realize that I got my back. Nobody's gonna care about you more. I don't care what anybody says. Nobody's gonna care about you more than you. Nobody knows you like you. Uh, when you have that realization, I think it's maybe an epiphany that happens.
Yeah, and leading up to this self-empowerment, this peak, or your where you want to be, taking these little steps, it just begins with small things, making healthier choices, um making a decision to try something new, like a new hobby, reading a different book, um working on fears, little things that take us outside of ourself are ways to empower ourself, for better,
Mm.
self-awareness, doing all these things, like we've talked before, yoga, mindfulness, things that just almost breathe life into ourselves.
Yeah, yeah. The quiet is underrated.
Yes.
Just
Yeah.
realizing, just sitting with yourself and just having a moment and just thinking and getting clarity. When we talk about self empowerment, what are some of the other things that come along with that?
What are you meaning specifically? Like, I'm not quite sure I understand your question. You
If
mean like,
if your goal is truly self empowerment, really making that change within yourself, what are some of the other things that we need to do?
sure. It's about reflection. It's about awareness. It's about getting in touch with yourself. Like I said, it's taking self-empowerment is a whole new way of being. It's not just about mindset. It's about everything that encompasses you to put you on that path. Self-empowerment, achieving your greatest self. So being good to yourself, like, taking those small steps, facing your fears, maybe therapy, maybe getting a coach,
Hmm.
having a good support group, like you mentioned, your men's group. That can be very empowering because you have other people to turn to when it's a group, and you're not subject to a one-on-one, where you may not agree or it may not suit your personality, but really finding what your values are, finding what's important to you, and then making a list. And if you can, prioritize them and work on one or two a week slowly, add another one. And you don't have to like achieve this pinnacle, with each one, just little steps towards each area of your life. And I think that to me is, what self-empowerment's about, is your in taking what you have inside and bringing it outside to have a more fulfilling life.
Why, Coach Shay, do you think that many people are, for lack of a better description, stuck? Like they just can't move things forward. They know they have goals, maybe some dreams, maybe haven't, fleshed them out exactly, but they know, but they're stuck. They don't move forward.
I think it's a lot of a handful of things, but what I've encountered is the two biggest things are, well, one is fear in general, just in general, fear of stepping forward,
Mm,
moving out, fear of letting go. Um, and then just, yeah, it really, it's all fear, fear of letting go, fear of stepping forward, fear of change, fear of success, fear of failure,
mm, mm.
um, there's a lot of things that keep people stuck, lack of awareness, it's doing things as they've always been done, whether it's correct or not. Um,
It's interesting you say the fear of success. It's almost hard to, unless you're in it, to realize that you're afraid to succeed, but there's so many things that come along with it. I'm going to yeah, hey, this idea takes off, or if I take that job, I'm going to be making more money. Um, but then people may look at me differently because I'm doing better. If there's so many, what if I take it and then I fail? There's so many things there. Fear of success, we would not imagine unless you're dealing with that.
right, right. It can be a motivator or a hindrance,
Mm,
you
yeah.
know and that depends on how you view yourself, and that again, if we take steps towards building confidence in ourselves, in creating this lifestyle of self-empowerment, of giving ourselves grace, practicing that self-love,
Mm.
taking these steps and failing or succeeding are going to be done with more grace to ourselves.
It's interesting. A lot of these things we may not realize that we're dealing with it, like the fear of success. You have a great idea, you're going to change business, change jobs, whatever, but you keep spinning your wheels, but you don't know why. And I believe having a coach can uncover those whys. What's going on there? Why are you afraid? Why? And fear is normal. I get that. Um,
Absolutely.
but there's definitely other reasons that somebody might be afraid to succeed.
Absolutely. And you need to then pause. Pause is a great tool in so many different ways. You pause and just take a step back, jot things down, do a brain dump on paper, verbally, get out whatever's going on. It's like writer's block. Sometimes you just got to, do a brain dump to get stuff out, to figure out, either you either need to get whatever's in there out, or you need to just get what's out there to see what's causing it, create that space inside. Um, and then go from there, and work on, where the inhibitions are, where the challenges are. How do we change that? How do we look at that mindset? How do we look at that, um, blockage? How do we look at that fear? How do we tackle that? First step is finding out that you have a fear, and then, trying to pinpoint exactly where it's at and making peace with it. You know.
Now you talked about the brain dump and writing it down. Would you say journaling is one of the most impactful things you could do when it comes to a journey of self empowerment?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because you give yourself the power and the control, when you're writing, and, it's private, it's intimate with yourself. Um, and sometimes we as human beings, we feel like we need someone else to talk to or confide in, or to, work things through with. And we don't always need that. Journaling can be very freeing. And then when all is said and done, everything's written there. The weight is off your shoulders. It's between you and the paper. And a lot of times so many other things come out that you never knew were in there,
Mm.
you know?
All right, we're going into a session with Coach Jay. I journal. Been doing it and I'm embarrassed to say I should have been doing it long before this, but call it 3 months, 3 to 4 months, something like that. And in the beginning, I would write a lot, and it was fantastic. I was throwing a lot down there, processing different things, different thoughts. And as time goes on, I find myself trying to intentionally write in my journal, and I keep a gratitude journal separately. But I find myself not writing as much. When I do, it's shorter, but that's okay. It's almost as if I don't want to hear myself anymore. Like, I don't know if that makes sense.
It does. I was going to ask you, are you pressuring yourself to write when you don't want to?
A little bit, but I'll let time go by. I'll take a break and I'm like, all right, let's get back into this. Let's, but I find myself, it's almost as if, like you have that friend that calls you up and that you see the caller ID is like, here we go. I know where we're going with this. They need me. I'm going to talk with them. I hope they're okay. I care about them, but yeah, here we go. They're going to dump some stuff. Like, let me pick it up. I feel that's me with me journaling. And I don't know if that's normal. And I want to get past it because I know it's impactful to journal, but I'm stuck. I'm honestly stuck right here.
Well, you could be putting pressure on yourself. It sounds like you've got demands on yourself to put something substantial in your journal. And, we can take breaks from journaling, but we also don't have to have any real substance in there. The idea is just to get in the habit. You can write words down. You don't have to write full sentences. You can draw pictures. You can color with crayons, you know. It doesn't have to make sense.
All right. I appreciate that. And not that I'm a stickler, for sentences and perfect. No,
Right.
but a lot of times it's stuff that's going on. And sometimes I don't want to say it's negative, but it's life's challenges more than me. I saw a butterfly today. It's not like it's usually not light and airy. Maybe that's what's going on. Maybe I need to approach it from a different way because I'm looking at it as a therapy session with myself. Here's what's going on, as opposed to just writing anything, including silly positive things. Whatever. I had a cup of coffee
Absolutely.
today, was great. I had an extra 15 minutes and I meditated. Write it down. That was great. Maybe I'm pressuring myself to put things that are challenges, and it doesn't need to be that way.
Sure. I mean, and something simple like I went and had coffee today, just to do a stream of thought.
Yeah.
Maybe you didn't realize it. There was somebody in line that was standing too close behind you, was in your space, and all of a sudden, I didn't like the way the waiter, way the barista spoke to me, or
Hmm.
it's freezing out. I didn't want to go. Just a free streaming,
Yeah.
free flow.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be any particular way. It doesn't have to be therapy. It just brain dump.
Yeah. Yeah. I was just going to say that. I was going to repeat that of which you said earlier, the brain dump. You're just dumping things out there. I think what's going on is I'm filtering what's going on, onto the page and
Yeah.
picking certain things, situation with this person, or it could be an ongoing situation. Well, today, this is what happened. Instead of just like whatever comes out, just right. I did get past, clarity in wording and even writing. Like sometimes I'll be laying in bed. I'm just like, I'm thinking to myself, part of part of the journal is the cool part. I feel is later in life going back to it and reading it. It's like, oh, that's where you were at that point in your life. I even think to myself, I don't know if I'm going to be able to read this in the future, but anyway, here we go. But one thing's for certain, and I think you'll agree with this: writing it down is key. Instead of typing it into your phone, that physical connection from the mind to the hand to the pen is just, it cements it. It makes it real. Sometimes when you're
Yes.
typing it,
Yes.
it's real, but it's not really real.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You have that that mind body connection. You're holding that pencil. It's going from your mind to your hand,
Yeah. Yeah. Is this some of the things that people, am I normal? Do you hear these kind of things from people that you coach?
Absolutely. There's nothing formal. We shouldn't have to worry about formalities of life, but we're raised to be formal. It's not proper to, not say hello or thank you, please, and thank you. There's no formality when it comes to um, our own individual lives.
Yeah.
There's no cookie cutter approach. It has to be individualized, and it has to be free flowing. It has to be smooth. It has to feel right and peaceful. Um, with as little as resistance as possible. And that's the tricky part is navigating through your own individual self to break through those
Mm,
ridges and mountains to find that peaceful, how to find that peace, how
breakthrough.
to get there.
Big
Yeah,
word.
exactly.
Mm. And celebrate the wins, because as we're talking, I'm
Yes.
scanning my mind. And I used to, wear the perfectionist badge and move past that in a big way about 4-ish years ago. And even as we're talking writing a journal, if it was 4 or 5 years ago, I would be making sure that it was very clear to see. And I have a friend, known him for decades. He'll use in everything. He'll use a ruler when he writes, and that's, I'm not judging anybody, but I'm glad I got past the perfectionism thing. Like I was saying, just laying in bed, just writing it all down there. And it's not about me, but I'm just illustrating. We're not perfect. Yeah, we all struggle
That's
with
right.
different things of moving life forward. Um, Self empowerment being one of them. Coach Jay, how do we connect with you?
Sure. I can be reached via text or phone on my business line at 352-410-2133. I can also be found on Facebook on my page at Transformations with Jay. And if anyone is interested in booking a free consultation appointment, I can be found on the Calendly app at calendly.com/Coach J with the number 2.
And when we say Jay, it's Jay, right?
Correct. Yes. Jay.
Awesome.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much for today. At the very least, I learned a lot. I think we all did. I'm looking forward to writing my journal. I really am,
There you go.
with no
I'm glad.
boundaries. And we'll
Right.
catch up soon. Thank you so much.
Yes. Thank you.
We'll be right back.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.